Hey everyone, it's Ventus and welcome to another episode of League of Legends Minis. Today I wanted to talk about a technique that several champions use, assassins more so than others, and that is the delayed burst. Delayed bursting is a cooldown management technique that lets you chain together abilities in a much more intelligent way. You delay your spellcast and extend your damage output for more damage over a longer period of time. Delayed bursts have their risks. The main one being the target avoiding the extended burst and you ending up doing much less than you should have. But the positive side is that you'll be able to burst larger amounts overall, whether it's one instantaneous burst or an extended burst. The following examples should give you a much better picture if it's still unclear. The first champion ever, from my knowledge, to use delayed burst is Akali. Akali's Q, Mark of the Assassin, applies a mark that lasts for 6 seconds, which is longer than the cooldown for the ability. So it's possible to Q, wait for it to come off cooldown, auto Q auto, just instantly. Or if you're level 6 already, use your ultimate to gap close somewhere in between that burst. Akali's version of the delayed burst will cause her to deal a massive amount of damage several seconds after the initial Q. Against players who are aware of this, it may cause them to instantly back off for the entire duration of her mark. And this is very bad for Akali's lane opponent, very bad for the player of that champion. And also, this is the reason why Akali should be well respected after level 6. Her all-in power is incredibly scary, because she's able to do that instantaneous surprise burst by popping her mark twice in a row. Diana's kit is very similar to Akali's, so it's no surprise she can do it too. Crescent Strike, Diana's Q, has a cooldown of 6 seconds at rank 5. It also applies Moonlight for 3 seconds. If you wait until the very last moment to use her ultimate, Lunar Rush, you can delay your burst slightly and deal much more concentrated damage. This is because when you use Lunar Rush on an enemy marked with Moonlight, it resets Lunar Rush's cooldown. Overall, Diana's burst is much slower than Akali's, as you have to wait for Crescent Strike to come off cooldown to use it again for the reset mechanic. But in about 7 seconds or so, you'll be able to Crescent Strike twice and Lunar Rush 3 times, which is a huge amount of damage on basically any target. The main champion I wanted to talk about, though, is Ahri. Of the champions I already mentioned, Ahri has the slowest delayed burst. Unlike Akali and Diana, Ahri's delayed burst doesn't necessarily give her this huge chunk of burst damage instantly. Instead, Ahri gains several small sets of bursts. Inexperienced players often use Ahri's basic abilities and then mash her ultimate to deal damage instantly. Could do that, but in most cases it's not as reliable to do that. Spirit Rush can be casted 3 times in 10 seconds. With enough cooldown reduction, Ahri's basic abilities will come up twice before Spirit Rush ends, or even 3 times if you use Spirit Rush after the initial burst, since the Q and W cooldowns can be lowered to under 5 seconds. Ahri's delayed burst is using her basic abilities alongside Spirit Rush at the same time you use Spirit Rush, and only when using Spirit Rush. The ultimate, each charge of it, becomes this gap closer that allows her to deal more reliable damage. It's primarily used as a gap closer instead of a damage tool, and this is the main reason she can actually land her abilities properly. She can continue to dash and reposition herself to be in range, or reposition herself to safety and get ready to burst again. Each of Ahri's Spirit Rushes do very little damage alone, but when you pair it with her other abilities, Foxfire at the least, her overall burst will be much greater. Essentially, Ahri has 3 small burst rotations, each delayed by her cooldowns, and function around her ultimate charges. If you instantly mash everything, including all 3 charges of her ult, there's a good chance that your abilities won't be up more than once, and you'll only get to use 1 rotation of spells instead of 3. By intelligently using Spirit Rush with her other abilities, Ahri's damage actually becomes much more consistent, making her a deadly threat over the entire 10 seconds instead of just the first 2 seconds. Anyway, I hope you liked this episode. Go wreck some people with the delayed burst. They probably won't expect it. As always, thanks for watching, and see you next time.